you think will happen if I add 2 or more of the mentioned decimal numbers in the examples? What do you think? Exactly. The value will increase, and that means it will be close to a whole number. One of our targets today is to learn how and why mathematicians use estimations. To be able to answer these 2 questions, we need to think about the meaning of estimation. When I asked my students in some classes, some of them said that estimations are a way to get us close to a correct answer, and that helps us to deal with numbers easily. That's why mathematicians use estimations, so that they quickly calculate distances, speeds, and the results mathematicians and mathematical operations used. There are many methods that mathematicians use to estimate a number or an answer to a mathematical operation, like rounding, front-end estimation, and using benchmark numbers. That's how we know why sometimes we need to estimate decimal numbers. That's to be able to connect to our thoughts and deal with numbers easily. For example, let's say we want to add 43 hundredths and 56 hundredths. What do you notice about these 2 numbers? Are they close to benchmark numbers? What do you think? I'm sure many of you can tell that each of the 2 numbers is close to 1/2, which is equal to 5/10. And we can write them as 500ths and 5,000ths and so on. Why? Because they are all considered benchmark numbers. We can estimate each of the 2 numbers to be 5/10. So I can write this as 5/10 plus 5/10, and the estimate will be a whole 1. We all know that 0 and 1 are benchmark numbers and are used, and we were using them last year to compare 2 numbers. From our knowledge of decimal numbers, we can say that the numbers that have more zeros in the decimal number part are closer to 0, like 1/10. Let's write. What else? 100th, 1,000ths, and so on. They are closer to 9, okay? Now let's go to the numbers that are closer to 9 in the decimal number part. If they are closer to 9, this means they are closer to 1 whole, like 9/10ths, 900ths, 999 thousandths, and so on. All of these numbers are what? Closer to 1. Now, if each digit is closer to 9, as we said here, in the decimal part, it is getting closer to a whole 1. Now, the benchmark strategy is one of the estimation strategies. There are also front-end estimation, in which we look at the first digit on the left and ignore the rest of the what? Of the numbers. The third strategy is rounding with the value and with the various types. After explaining these strategies we use to estimate, let's move on to the activity part titled Estimate Amounts. Here, we are asked to find the sum of 2 ones and 361 thousandths plus 3 ones and 783 thousandths. Some of you might think of using the front-end estimation. So, we estimate the number 2 ones, 361 thousandths to 2. Why? Because we write 2 and we neglect all the other parts. Now let's look at the second number. We are going here again to keep 2 and ignore the rest of the what? Of the digits. In the same exact way, we are going to estimate 3,783 thousandths to, that's correct, to 3. Okay? We can think of estimating by rounding to the nearest hundredth. Okay, here, before we continue and move on, what is 2 plus 3? It's equal to 5. Now, if we thought about estimating to the hundredth, we are going to keep the digits after the decimal point, and we're going to go and look at the number in the hundredth place. So, the digit is going to be 2.36. So, it's 2 ones and 36 hundredths. Now, the other number, what happens when we round to the nearest hundredth? It's going to be 3.78, which is 3,178 hundredths. Now, when we check what is the estimation is 6.14. Now, what if you had a large number, such as 3,453.23 hundredths? Let's write it down together. 3,453.23 hundredths. And a small number, such as 2 ones and 35 hundredths. Okay. Can you estimate using the same way you did in the previous problem? What do you think? Of course, you can round the decimal places, and it will not change the value of the numbers. However, using the front-end estimation will help us estimate the answer quickly, and it will close to the correct answer. The large number will be here what? If I'm going to use this method. Excellent, it's going to be 3,000. Now, what about the other number? The 2 ones, 35 hundredths. Yes, it will be 2. So, the sum will be equal to 3,002. Some of you might think and ask, when do we use rounding to a decimal place and when do we use the front-end estimation? Through the answer, we can see that the front-end estimation is an easy way to quickly get to the sum. It also helps us to see the exact answer. Now, we will check whether the exact answer is reasonable or not. However, there are some situations where we need to round to a decimal place. For example, when dealing with money, measuring ingredients, we want an accurate number, so we will not use this.
تقدر تتابع كل دروسك على تطبيق مدرستنا بلس. مدرستنا، المستقبل يبدأ الآن.